Hello everybody, welcome to Running Through It. On today's video, I would like to discuss the 2019 Boston Marathon. I talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but in the podcast, gave a run through of everyone I thought meant something to this race and kind of what to maybe expect out of them leading into 2019. But today I want to discuss some runners that might surprise us, surprise us with what they did during the race or surprise us with what they didn't do during the race. So essentially, runners who are at that make or break level. Some runners that might not be talked about as much as we would expect. Some runners that might be talked about too much for what they might be bringing to the table. We'll kind of go from there. In today's video, I'm going to break down the women's race, and then video later this week, I'm going to do the same for the men's side, just to kind of keep this thing short and sweet. So the first runner on the women's side I want to start off talking about is Hasay Kipyego. So Sally is actually someone who I did discuss in my podcast, but is someone who maybe flies under the radar because she just announced, it was kind of a surprise entrant when they announced all the names into this thing. She has taken 2 years off to have a child, and that's gonna drop you off the radar a little bit since she hasn't raced since 2016. She is the runner-up of the 2016 New York City Marathon, running 2:28. Another reason why she flies under my radar is because that race was extremely hilly, extremely humid, and she came, 2:28 is not necessarily an impressive time, but second place in a World Marathon Major is always impressive regardless of the time, and especially when Edna Kiplagat is the winner of that race. Definitely puts things into perspective a little bit. Reason why I think we do need to pay big attention to her because she's one of the most decorated NCAA athletes of all time. She raced at Texas Tech, 2007 All-American, 2007 All-Big 12, 2007 All-Mountain Region, 2007 Big 12 Newcomer of the Year, Mountain Region Track Athlete of the Year, the USTF CCCA Female Cross Country Athlete of the Year in 2007, 2008 Female Cross Country Athlete of the Year, and the 2009 Honda Sports Award winner. Coming back to the sport after taking a long 2-year break off makes you kind of wonder what's going on. She was going to race in the fall of last year at the 2018 New York City Marathon, but due to a bout of malaria, which I will kind of put her post up on the screen, she wasn't able to race. So not only has she taken some time off, but she also had to take some time off due to illness that caused her to kind of run into a hiccup in her training, in her build-up for last fall. So who knows what's going to happen. Obviously, she has the track record to put up a time fast in 2:28. I think her 2:28 is actually kind of an outlier, all things considered. But I'm extremely skeptical considering, one, her time off, and two, everything that has happened to her body in the past few years. That's a lot to ask from a training perspective. So that you're putting a lot of stress on your body, and when it's had all this stress from malaria, which is a pretty bad illness, as well as childbirth. Not saying that athletes that have kids can't come back stronger than ever, because actually in running that's been exhibited to be the opposite. Usually runners have kids and they come back and they're faster than they were before they had the child. So there's something to that, but I think the time off in general is what kind of makes me skeptical as far as the race goes. However, Let's Run reported it, and they're pretty bullish on her, so I figured I would include her here, even though I definitely think it's one of those make or break races. If you miss World Marathon Major already, you have to come in ready to go in April, so it's somebody you really need to pay attention to. Number 2 on this list, Jordan Hasay. Now Jordan Hasay is also on this list for a similar reason as Hasay Kipyego, because she did not have a great 2018. She dropped out of her spring race and she dropped out of her fall race due to injury. If you remember, last Boston, I was pumping her up as one of the big four between Molly Huddle, Des Linden, Shalane, and Jordan Hasay. Jordan Hasay really impressed me in 2017 when she ran 2:20 to debut at the Chicago Marathon, the fastest U.S. marathon debut by about 2 minutes at that point. So to say that, because I didn't necessarily pick her when I talked about this on the podcast, but it's kind of doing her a disservice. Like, 2:20 is extremely legit. She obviously has that in her legs, and she's done before on her first ever marathon. So you'd expect bigger and better things out of her second one. However, the two big barriers to that are that she didn't race last year due to injury twice, and everything that's kind of going around in the track and field world regarding the Nike Oregon project. So Jordan is coached by Alberto Salazar, part of the Nike Oregon project. I actually had to check just to make sure because of the Matthew Centrowitz deal. However, it doesn't seem like she doesn't post a lot about training with them. So I think there's a pretty dark cloud that hangs over her as far as the Nike Oregon project speculation goes. I would not be surprised if she toes the line in April not wearing a Nike Oregon project singlet, but that's something we'll keep an eye on. It's definitely something that takes a toll on your training though, when you have all this doubt, all the speculation over your coach and your training group in general. So that's why this is kind of a make or break for her. She's missed her past 2 marathons and everything going on in the Nike Oregon project. Who knows? Who knows where she's at in her headspace, and who knows what that does to her training wise. So just another thing we have to take a look at. Another reason why we should maybe be a little bit skeptical thinking about Jordan Hasay's chances at Boston this year. Number 3 on this list is Sarah Hall. Sarah Hall, the wife of Ryan Hall, had her best year as a marathoner last year. So even though she's been racing for a while, at the shorter distances, I think she's an 800 miler for a long time. But as we age, we get better at long distance stuff, and sometimes things happen. Like, distance runners have a crazy long shelf life. So to see someone like her excelling, especially with Ryan Hall's tutelage, is not that surprising. But so in 2018, she had her best year. She ran 69 for a half marathon. She ran 2:26 at the Ottawa Full. And just something we need to kind of keep an eye on, because given that's a pretty good jump. And usually when you have these kind of jumps, it doesn't stop there. So Sarah is definitely someone who you need to watch as far as Boston goes. And it seems like one of those races that it's a tough course. So if you're just a consistent runner like Des last year, you usually do pretty well given that. So we'll kind of see what happens there. I'm not saying I'm expecting her to challenge for the podium or anything like that. I just would not be surprised if she has a pretty good race, and just another person that I think we need to keep our eye on outside of the usual suspects and the favorites that we might have named so far. Number 4, last but certainly not least, the Bowerman Track Club runner Betsy Cena. Betsy ran for Iowa State, somebody that has a concurrent, somebody that I grew up watching as a peer almost. I saw her race at Louisville one year, somebody who it's kind of cool to be able to say that I witnessed kind of her rise to fame. But she has flown under the radar so far. She ran 2:22 at Paris last year, which is a very good debut. Like I talked about Jordan Hasay earlier, that would have been the American debut record if not for Jordan Hasay's race in Chicago in 2017. So Betsy's good, and she's really fast. Somebody who we don't necessarily think about when we talk about marathoners, just because she is of Kenyan descent, and I think that gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. But she's a product of the American system, just like Sally Kipyego, and is another person with American citizenship. So it's kind of cool to talk about. But she is definitely somebody who we need to keep an eye on, just from her track pedigree alone. I want to name off some of her PRs, because I think even though she's run 2:22, we can look at that and we can kind of pencil her in along with Jordan Hasay as far as kind of that time and everything. A 3K record of 8:38, 2 mile of 9:16, a 5K of 14:39, a 10K of 30:07, a 5K on the roads of 15:16 in Boston, 10 mile on the road of 53:49, which is kind of one of the more impressive ones, a half marathon of 69:17, and a marathon of 2:22:56 in Paris last year. So she has a very well-rounded, from mile on up distance-wise, a very well-rounded timetable. And somebody that I really enjoy watching. She ran really well in Rio, and is another person that is kind of that make or break. So the thing that makes Boston so intriguing this year with these elite fields that are announced is that a lot of things happen in the build-up. Races aren't run on paper, as we've learned in 2018, but there's a lot of runners around that same level, and especially because the runners that are perceived to be the fastest runners of the group are a little bit up there in age and probably don't have those PRs in their legs anymore. So we're looking at a lot of runners around that same level. Now it comes down to who can nail their build up the best and who has it on race day. And I'm kind of counting out Des Linden again, so do that at my own peril. But I do think that there are runners with more in their legs than what Des has, more of a track pedigree, more of a time pedigree than what Des has, but Des has that Boston Marathon win. So I'll kind of give my thoughts on who will actually win the race as we get closer to April. But for now, just some dark horses to consider, some people to follow. I'm really interested to follow Jordan Stay's Instagram posts for the next few months just to see what happens surrounding the Nike Oregon project and her training in general. So I'm really pulling for her, hoping that she doesn't come out down with another injury or something like that. Really hoping that she makes it scot-free through the rest of her training plan. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that list. I'm going to come back later this week with what I think on the men's side, and we will kind of go from there. If you disagree, if you have somebody else who is on that level that I haven't talked about, if you have another runner who can maybe surprise us, I would love to hear about it. Sound off in the comments. Feel free to give this a little thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more running related content. I also put out some stuff. So quick reactions, things about coaching, things about running in general. I'd love for you to check out the podcast. That's kind of more along what I love to talk about, just general running topics. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Work hard, be nice.